Hello everyone and welcome back to Lounging Lizards, where my lizards are still lounging. Today I'm going to talk about how you as a child between the ages of 10 and 16 or 17 can try to convince your parents or your guardians to allow you to have a reptile. So first thing that you want to start doing is you want to try and basically not whine and try to get your way with getting an animal. Mainly because it just goes to show how childish that you are being at that moment, and that's not going to help your chances of getting a reptile. You want to try and, if they tell you, no, we can't have one, or no, I'm afraid of them, they're gross, don't get mad and start whining and throwing a fit over it. You want to try and be an adult about it and say, okay, well, I'll try again in the next 6 months to see how you feel. So bottom line, don't start throwing a fit because you're not getting your way. Just wait it out a little bit, and in the meantime, I have some tips that you can use to help with the process of possibly getting your first reptile. Next thing is that you want to actually start doing chores without being told to do it. Start simple, start cleaning up after yourself after dinner, by washing your plate if you have to, to clearing off the dinner table after you guys are done eating. Doing that kind of stuff goes a long way in terms of trying to convince your parents to let you have an animal. It shows initiative, it shows that you could do things without having to fight about it and whatnot, so that's just something that you should keep in mind when you were told first that you couldn't. Then obviously you could start showing initiative and doing things on your own without being told to do it. Next, you want to do research. You want to make sure that you are doing research on the animal that you want. So whether it be a bearded dragon like Piper here, or a leopard gecko, or a ball python, or just anything in general that comes to reptiles, and any animal really, you want to make sure that you are doing that research. I would suggest doing research on your own at first, and then every once in a while kind of invite your mom or your dad or whoever you're living with to research with you. So if you have a PlayStation or something that can take you to YouTube, put it on the TV in the family room and watch that with your parents and show them that these animals can be awesome, and you're doing the research and you're absorbing that information. So that can be something that can really help with your chances of getting a reptile. The next thing that you can try to do is to try to bargain with your parents. A lot of the times it's an issue with money. They don't feel like they have the money to provide for the animal. I will say that yes, it is true, and reptiles are not a cheap animal to have. They have very specific needs, and unless you know what you're doing, and unless you're really good with finding deals on the things that you need for your animal, it is really hard to save money and to spend the money on an animal that not a lot of people consider to be as friendly as a dog or a cat. So it is really hard to convince your parents to get that. If you said, oh, I want a dog, they would say, oh, okay, it'll be something they can interact with, they can walk, and they can do whatever. But a lot of times people with a kid ask, oh, can I have a bearded dragon? A lot of the times the parents will say no out of either fear, or they will say no just because there's no financing available to get one. So by doing a deal, like let's say you say to your parents, okay, well, if we can't afford it and you don't have an issue with having a reptile, you can suggest, okay, well, we can look on Kijiji for the next few months and see if we can find a cheap bearded dragon, or a cheap leopard gecko, or a cheap bearded or a cheap or a cheap ball python, whatever it is that you want. You want to offer to them that you're going to make sure that if they are going to spend the money, that you're considering them in the matter, instead of going, okay, well, I want to go to PetSmart and I want to get, you know, this big extravagant Exoterra, and, you know, those Exoterras cost, you know, at the most they cost $200 to $300 depending on where you live. So it's really, there's a lot of money that goes into it. Yeah. So with things like Kijiji and Craigslist, usually you can get really good deals on reptiles. Piper here I got off Kijiji. She was $50 with her tank and everything. So, you know, you can always get a good deal that way. And of course you're obviously supporting adopting or rehoming, as opposed to buying a sick animal from PetSmart or Petco. So that's a huge thing with that as well. And yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. And so yeah, I think we're done. And like always, until next week, my lizards will still be lounging. Bye-bye, guys.